Do 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 do. Here we are, and hey! I forget what TV show said that, but when eventually it will come back to me. But there's some show that has a character that would always say hey. But anyway, welcome. How is everybody on this amazing Wednesday, January 18th? 2023. I keep wanting to say 2022. I'm not sure to why I want to keep going back, but let's stay focused on that. We're in 2023 and not 2022. How is everybody today? Hopefully you're all doing really well and you're not having as many technical challenges that I keep running through this morning. And yeah, with Mercury going direct, I guess we're still going to deal with that because we are dealing with the shadow period. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and check in and make sure we are streaming on all our platforms. And with that, I'm going to have Kitty introduce herself and just talk a little bit about what it is we're going to be talking about today. So Kitty, if you don't mind.
Well, I'm going to talk about Mercury initially, just because it happens to be forefront. I'm Kitty Foss, your storytelling astrologer. My job is to tell the story of your energy so you can be a hero in your own life. And so, because when you came, you decided to take some energy. So, just to talk a little bit about Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde are times where it isn't that the planet goes backwards, it's basically that it slows down and it literally changes its geometric orbit. And so, the Earth, it comes closer to the Earth. And so, when Mercury is retrograde, it's about us pausing and looking at the communication. It is the communication of rethink, redo, retouch. So even when it comes direct, part of the it's trying to get you to do is really look at everything that you are doing, like Joanne is trying to do today. I am also trying to do to get through systems. And that is kind of what we're talking about a little bit, because we are in the last few basically hours of Capricorn energy going into this Aquarian energy, which we have already Venus in, and is a very powerful energy this particular year, in this year of clarity, in this 7 year where intuition and internal messages are a direct link into how we clear and what we're doing. So that's one reason why today we are talking about this age of Aquarius stepping forward, this Aquarian energy this is probably the busiest week of the entire, certainly the month of January. And February promises, it's interesting, I saw somebody else today, Joanne, who talked about the 2 in the tarot for February. And it really is synthesis. It's partnership. It's a great time for partnership because everything will be direct. But it's also the partnership with yourself where we synthesize the speed at which this year has started and we kind of catch up with the ability to process it. It's not that it's slowing down, it's that we're speeding up. So that is a piece of it. Are we on all the platforms?
We are on all our platforms. We are on Twitter. So for those who are there, feel free to comment. Let us know what you think about today's conversation. We are also on YouTube. So for those of you who are on YouTube, if you have not subscribed, please do. And also hit that little, I guess, thumbs up that you're liking what we're sharing. And we are actually on our actual Facebook page. And I'm just trying to bring some people in to join us, but doesn't seem like it's really funny because lately when I go live on StreamYard, it shares to like maybe friends that I have not actually connected with on Facebook in probably like 2 years. And their little faces are popping up. I'm like, well, where's all the people who I've been in contact with within the last 2.5 weeks? But anyway, whatever the case is, we are here and super excited that we are here on this particular day, especially because Mercury does go forward. Not that it ever goes backwards. Not that, I mean, we think like the energy slows down, and I was going to call you Mercury. Mercury, would you mind talking about?
I'll be Mercury today. I will.
Let's talk about just for a moment what it means what each person has in regards to their Mercury. I have to get my thoughts together. Give me a second. Woo, gotta rewind and restart. When we speak of our signs, our personal signs, and like for me, I have Aquarius in Mercury. So for someone like yourself, where's Mercury on your chart?
My Mercury's in Scorpio,
Okay.
and it's in the 10th house. So the communication, Mercury is the planet of communication. So just for a brief 101 astrological overview, wow, I even said that without stumbling, is planets are the energy we're talking about, the function of them. Mercury is communication. Uh, the sign therein is how that expresses itself: earth, wind, air, fire. Mercury controls Gemini, is the ruler of Gemini, which means, and the energy of Gemini is air, and the energy of Gemini is experience, how you look. It's learning. It's the personal air planets about how I think, how I approach things. Sometimes can be seen a little bit cold because it uses a discernment so it can see the entire gambit, both the dualities. And the house that your Mercury is in is where that conversation takes place. So
Yes.
for me, my Mercury is in Scorpio. So even though Mercury controls Gemini, I have this air of transformation because it's Scorpio is all about transformation. It's emotional transformation. So I have both thoughts and emotions connected to my communication. And in the 10th house, it's my persona, what I'm aware of, what I'm here for work. It is also the scout. There's something new of my sun. So it informs the sun. It is the first perception that helps work with the sun. And in that transforming, so there is a belief then about communication. And it's interesting because it's called the dictator of when it works with the sun like that, because it's very clear what it sees, what it wants. And of course, in Scorpio, it's in the sign of power. Now, you said your Mercury is?
Before I go there, I just want to point out for those who are curious, when Kitty speaks about her 10th house and in her soul's work, I know I've had conversations with others about this where most people think, well, their soul's work is their 9 to 5. In reality, it's really not your 9 to 5. It's really what you've come into this lifetime where you've been reincarnated to do it in this lifetime, which is why it's called your soul's purpose. Not necessarily where you spend most of your day in your 9 to 5 job, but your soul's purpose. We all have one. Every one of us has something we're supposed to be doing. So for Kitty, because it's in Scorpio for her, the way I see it and hear it is that this Mercury's energy in Scorpio is going to also help her. And what I'm hearing to say to deliver it as is to really die off the old way of how you communicate in
Right.
your soul's purpose,
Right.
and delivering a new way of doing it.
Because the 10th house, the house of the persona. So the way I explain it to people is your work isn't always your job.
Yes, exactly.
Your work is what you're here. And the 10th house, that persona house, is the house of Capricorn, the house of bigger structures, why you've arrived on this planet and what your structure is going to look like. And so you are here. We all have a work and a purpose that we have signed up for. And so mine has to do with transformation and balance because I have also Libra. So balancing transformation. So it's not about, yeehaw, let's cut it all down and start again. It's about balancing so that it can be accepted. And that's the structure I work in because the 10th house conversation is always about the bigger structure because the 10th house is the house of Capricorn, even though my particular 10th house has Scorpio on it. So the structure is always talking to the transformation for me.
Yes. And for me, as Kitty asked, my Mercury is in Aquarius in the 8th house.
Oh, the house of transformation.
Yes, which when you were speaking about yours being in Scorpio, I'm like, oh, that's just so funny how it's like we're almost connected in a weird way because mine's all about
yours has the vision of what that transformation is because that's what Aquarius is about, that revolutionary vision. It is also air, so it's the transformation of the thought process, the transformation of the vision of what you want to see, that kind of revolutionary energy. So, and you're looking at a combination of water, and because it's the Scorpio house, and air. So it really is male feminine. So there's already a balance in the polarity of that house. But you are transforming what the vision is for people, what they can see and be, and how that's part of their power structure, because that's part of the eighth house. The eighth house is the house of the taboo, the house of what is not seen and going into the darkness to pull the light out. But you are holding the vision of that. So,
yeah. So what I hear from that, what I'm hearing you say, and maybe it's only because I want to hear it this way, is that I'm actually holding the vision of what I can see for others as well. Yes.
yes.
Thank you. Just
And
wanted to clarify that.
And it's revolutionary because it's Aquarius. It's a quirkier energy. It's the age we're in, the age of Aquarius, and it's the collective. So that's why it does hold it for the collective, because it's the energy of the collective, the humanitarian, larger thought. It also can be seen sometimes as cold because it keeps the we in focus rather than the me. But part of our job is to hold the me ourselves as part of that collective. So,
Yes.
and that's a great segue into Aquarius.
Yes, because considering that's when we think about it, like right now, Mercury, if I have my notes, I don't have any of those notes in front of me, but in memory, Mercury right now is um in Capricorn, moving into Aquarius. Yes, right?
Yes,
Is that
yes.
true? Yeah, exactly. I was actually talking about this with someone this morning, and I'm like, where are my notes? But yes. So you were saying?
It usually travels with Venus, but Venus has moved ahead into Aquarius itself. So we have Venus in Aquarius, our value, what we value that's beautiful, and our relationship energy. And because Mercury went retrograde, it stayed in its Capricorn orbit while it changed it and got closer to the Earth. So that's what this Mercury retrograde that people. It's funny because I did a podcast today with someone to talked about this. It is the challenge of the redo, rethink, or reaffirm that I'm doing what I'm supposed to. It's meant to slow us down, to listen, but re-examine what we've been doing to help focus. And for us, focusing the vision, especially as Mercury goes back, will go now into Aquarius in February, I think, early February.
Yeah, February. Hold that thought. I have that here somewhere in my 5,000 notes.
Oh, I got it in front of me.
You got it in front of you? Go for it.
Okay. I know it's early February, and where are you?
Well, as Kitty
Oh,
is
it's
looking
the 11th.
February 11th?
February 11th, yeah.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah. And it's interesting because when we speak about Venus in Aquarius right now, she's only going to be there for a little while longer because January.
She boogied on.
She's going to be moving into Pisces. Yeah. In fact, I just did a whole article on her energy and what it means for those who do have Venus in Pisces or other areas as well. So that article will be coming out very soon.
And we just had a very powerful day, Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Because that is the celebration of Venus, the divine feminine. And, 13 was a power number for women. And it was only when patriarchal society kind of decided to suppress women and see them as evil and turn it as evil did the 13 then become unlucky.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because Venus at that point was in the vision of what femininity could be, what beauty and value was. And she, in Aquarius, Venus it's not her most comfortable place, but it's what pushes her to get ready for Pisces, which is where she's exalted, where she has a lot of power in the flow and the back and forth and in beauty and in that higher perch. So she needs to always look at the vision before she gets into the flow so she knows where she's going. It's not her happiest placement, but it is one of her biggest learning placements. So looking at Venus on your own chart is interesting. My Venus is in truth. So I was looking for the vision of what the truth really is in order to get ready for this flow. And my Venus happens to be in the 12th house, which is the house that Pisces lives, though mine personally is in Sagittarius. So, but it's also the house of uncovering where we're going. It's the house of the secrets, from the unconscious to the conscious, where we're being carried in the flow. So that's always an interesting thing to look at, where the conversation takes place, because that's an area in your life then that kind of gets lit up when that energy crosses it, its transition across it. So where's your Venus?
My Venus is in Pisces in,
Where she's exalted.
yes, and she's in the ninth house. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I have to change your email address on our ticker here because I have it wrong.
Okay. Well, thank you for changing my email address.
What's that?
She is in the ninth house, and that's the house of higher learning. It's interesting because what you were saying, we have parallels. My Venus is in Sagittarius in the house of Pisces, and your Venus is in Pisces in the house of Sagittarius.
You're going to have to say it again for me just in a second, because multitasking right now is not my best friend. So I just want to change that.
That means she is, for her, it says $1 per minute. She is.
Mercury is really getting the best of me today.
Mercury is bringing to task all of those things to re-examine, re-look at that you've been. It's bringing them forward in front of you. She is in Pisces. She is exalted, and that means she's exalted in higher learning. So as Joanne develops relationships with higher learning, higher understanding, higher truths, because again, it is the house that Sagittarius is a part of that rules the 10th house. So the planet.
Does that mean I'm going to get smarter?
The planet rules the sign, and the sign is in the house. So, and so what I said is that a connection for us is that I am, all right, you ready? Are you paying it? You paying attention now?
I'm paying attention now. Yes, I'm no longer trying to do two things.
Well, and if you listen to my daily vibe that went out, it talked about focusing the vision, focusing the communication, because it is kind of disheveled because it's been re-examined. Now you've got to get it like back on the treadmill. It's like you got yourself off, you wiped the treadmill down, and now you're getting, took a look at where you were and you're getting back on. Your Pisces is in the ninth house. Your Venus is in Pisces in the ninth house. And by the way, Pisces, Venus is the ruler. No, Neptune's the ruler of Pisces. Sorry.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah. So anyway, your Venus is in the ninth house, and the ninth house is the house of Sagittarius. You have Pisces on your ninth house, so she has fire and water. And it's the sign. It's truth. It's higher learning. That's what the ninth house is about, and that's Sagittarius. And your Venus is in that relationship with higher learning and truths and what you can see in that flow. My Venus is in Sagittarius, the house that rules where yours is.
In the 12th house.
In the 12th house, where Pisces is the ruler.
There you go. Yes. Wow. That is so interesting.
So that makes us kind of a mirror for each other. As I uncover into the flow, I already am bringing truths forward. And as you are in the flow, truths and learning come forward.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Yes. No wonder why we get along so darn well.
Yep. And we can read together. Mm-hmm. So, but that's kind of where we are. So as we're going into this Aquarian energy, this Saturday is a new moon, and it's a very powerful new moon, super new moon. First of all, there's a really strange thing that's going on with new moons and full moons. I think it's 5 and 7, and I don't have it in front of me, but there are 5 new moons. It's new moons. 5 new moons at 1 degree. And there are 7 full moons at 16 degrees. And that doesn't mean it stayed still. 16 degrees of different signs. That's kind of, if you think about it, that's even harder to predict than the lottery. the astronomical number of probability that it would be that many in a row and that many in a row at the same time. So the 5 that are happening during the 7, this is one of them where they overlap, is amazing. And of course, we're talking about really close to really important degrees. There's $1 per minute again.
I noticed that when I redid your email address, I left out Gmail. I'm like, this is really getting the best of me today.
So
I think I got it right now.
You know, so that's a pretty important thing. This is one of the moons where we had both the 16 and the 1, and this is also the vision. And because this is a year of clarity and new beginnings, this is finishing and new beginnings, and with that 7, wow, being about your intention, your intuition. This is about setting the vision, what you want to kind of, your revolutionary vision of exact what it is you want to see, and start doing it. So seeing your new moon intentions as this is what's happening to me this year, and kind of stepping forth to manifest that. So
yes,
that's pretty important.
Yes, and when we think about this year's energy on the collective, that 2023, which is 7, every one of us are going to, I'm going to use the word deep dive into who we are becoming. We're no longer really going to be interested of who we were. We're not going to be doing a lot of evaluating. We've been
doing that, yeah.
I'm going to say we've had all this time with all the different planets being retrograde to do a lot of evaluating, that we're sort of evaluated out, and it's really time to say, okay, what was before doesn't matter anymore, because we are all really going through this evolutionary experience of who we are becoming. And that's where the soul's work really comes into play and is really important for us, because we need to be more aligned with who we are becoming, and to do the work that we're doing and connecting, collaborating with the right clientele. Whereas it's so interesting. I was chatting with someone this morning, and she had put a post up in her private group about not everyone is your ideal client. And it's really important for us to really now discover and understand who your ideal client is, because you don't want to be standing in front of an audience that ideally is not your ideal client. I had that experience last week. I was on a Zoom call, and I'm very fond of this gentleman who runs the Zoom call, and I've done a lot of work with him in the past years. But I was in the Zoom call with him, and I was noticing that all the other people who were there, I was like, okay, first of all, other than this one woman beside myself who was in the group, I'd say there was 10 men in that group. Now, my ideal client is woman over the age of 40. Now, in theory, out of all these 10 men that were in that group, I don't think any of them were over 30. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't know a woman who's over 40. Just that, theoretically speaking, for me to be in that group and exerting my time and energy in that space at that particular time, I don't think it was worth my while to be there. And I realized that really quickly. Whereas in the past, I don't think I would have paid attention to it as much. I would have just been like, okay, well, I'm here, and whatever it is, whatever my message is, it's going to get across. But then when I really thought about it in most recent days, it's like, okay, I really need to make sure I'm spending my time, my valuable time for that matter, in front of the right audience. So this way here, I'm not exerting 30 or 40 or 60 minutes of my time in front of an audience that may not value what I bring to the table. And to me, that's important. And that's the 7 energy year of really getting to that place of knowing, respecting your own boundaries, to know that, okay, I don't need to be on this call just because I value that person who's running the Zoom. I value him, but maybe that particular group of people he's bringing into the group isn't really for me. And I learned that really quickly. So I share this with everyone, for you to start paying attention to the groups you're going into, and are they matching your ideal client? And if you don't know what your ideal client is or who your ideal client is, this is the time, I would say, during the shadow period of Mercury, to start reflecting on, okay, who is it that you want to work with? And the one thing, the woman who I chatted with in the morning, that she made super clear is that if you are putting out the energy that, oh, you can work with everybody, that's a really big, huge range of people. You really have to narrow it down. Like for you, Kitty, just out of curiosity, because you do you're storyteller of astrology. Like, who is your ideal person that you want to do readings for or with?
My ideal person is honestly the person that wants to look for an awareness of how to be the hero in their life, how to use astrology as a tool. Not everybody resonates with astrology, so that's the first part of it. I'm a crone. It's the age of crone, so really having working with a lot of women, but I've done men before. But it's really about the openness of where they are and what they want to learn. I honestly would love to take some of this into the workplace and let people understand how they are. Take a look at there's a whole piece of your chart that's about your interplanet play, your Mercury, your Sun, and your Venus. That's literally a Myers-Briggs personality type and how you function and how you problem solve. And that would be really interesting in a workplace and looking at what your culture is. So mine has more to do with what they want to do. I don't want to hard sell you looking at because if you're not going to use it, then let's not either of us namaste and you move on to what it is that you need. So I do understand it. It's very funny because today um, on the other podcast that I did today, which was a lady up in Canada, she's a medium, and we were talking about, she had just done within a few hours of the podcast a whole thing about embracing your joy, living your life, who it is you want to be around. And she used the analogy of a piece of cake, and that's what you're talking about. I could try to take a small piece of all the cakes, but that's not the cake I want. That's not bringing me the joy. That's not me. You get joy out of working with the clients that are a match.
Yes, yes. And it's so interesting because last night I sat, and after our good old friend Joe's class, I literally sat because he had posed a question in reference to what is it you want to do or why is it you do it. And I sat there and I evaluated, and being in my field, health, fitness, and wellness for 35 plus years, I sat there and evaluated. I'm like, okay, is my why the same as it was when I first started in my field?
Mm-hmm.
And or is it different than it was? Like, of course, the normal things where I enjoy sitting there and witnessing my clientele achieving the goals they're looking to achieve. They're short-term goals. When they come in and they do their workout, that they actually push through something that might have been challenging for them the last workout. And it's like, wow, they were able to do it this workout. So I enjoy that. And then adding the other modalities into it is I enjoy when someone gets excited about wanting to know about their astrology, how it fits in and where the planets are. And even, like for myself, like when I wake up some mornings, it's like, okay, so why is it that today I'm just as moody as it can be? Not today, but some mornings I wake up that way, like, okay, maybe I just need to stay in bed for a little while longer because I'm not in my higher vibration feelings. But then I go and I look at the energies of the moon and, whatever else is going on. I'm like, there's a lot of things going on out there. And being that I do have a Sun Pisces energy, I feel that even if there's no one around me.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're in touch with the flow.
Yes.
What's moving, what's going,
exactly. So because of that, I have to, I get excited when clients go into that energy of wanting to know, because then it gets me excited because it's like, wow, I can talk my language to clients that are learning the language, because they're learning. They're not where you and I are yet, but I wasn't where I am today, years ago. So it's a process of learning. So that question that Joe posed last night, I was like, wow. I was like, like, what is my why? Do I enjoy this? Why? Where do I get the joy from? Which is what was extremely funny for me.
And it makes perfect sense because Mercury's gone direct. So now it's time to communicate externally. Take what you've been re-looking at, re-examining, reaffirming, because Mars let us reaffirm what our beliefs were and get rid of the ones that really aren't serving us. And now we're reaffirming it to step into the vision of who we want to be. Because we hold a collective a vision of what we want to see, but we start with ourselves. That's that think globally, act locally, and this is a perfect conversation, Aquarian conversation. Let me reflect. Let me look at what the vision is. Let me focus the picture. Let me take a look at, you know, um, and my Aquarius energy is mainly on my second house of value. What's the vision? And I actually have a big player in there, my Chiron wound. So that's something that's always an indicator for me.
Oh,
But
your Chiron is in Aquarius?
Aquarius in the second house, yes.
Oh wow. Mm.
So it's the wound of not being valuable enough for the collective.
Hmm.
So
Now,
that's
interesting question. I probably should ask this offhand, but I'm going to ask it here because I know ideally my Chiron's in Aries, but I can't find on my chart because I don't see the little key that Chiron represents. So I don't know what house it's in.
you don't.
No, I don't. I don't see the little key in the Aries section. So I'm like, what house is it in? I mean, let me ask this silly question. Because it's in Aries, would it be like right in the line where Aries is?
What
Like that?
houses? What houses are Aries on?
For me, Aries is oh ninth house, so to speak.
So you have Pisces and
No,
Aries on the ninth house.
wait a second. No, Aries is my 10th house.
All right, so that's a very public wound because that's in your persona. And the wound of Aries is the wound of being your authentic self. Often people who have the wound in Aries do a lot of hiding who they are and not and people especially family will not recognize them for who they are and treat them who they think they are. And so it really is stepping in. You heal the wound by really being your authentic self and kind of setting the boundary, the demand, the start of, because Aries is that beginning energy. And yours is in the house of persona. Yours is in how you're stepping in your work. I have to show you how I am my authentic self, so that when I embrace my authentic self by helping you embrace your authentic self, I can accept my own. And by the way, Chiron is in Aries right now,
Yes, that I know. That we all
and
know,
it's
right?
out of retrograde. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, yes. So, based on what you just said about my Aries in the 10th house, in reference to how my family sees me, how I'm going to say this is the old way of how I used to be, which is
Mm-hmm.
why they have so many challenges accepting the new way that I'm showing up as
Right.
the healer. Like it's so funny. I've written and published 6 books. And out of the 6 books, like my very first book I published was all about meditation. And my dad said to me after publishing my first book, he said, "Well, when are you gonna write a book about like fitness? Because that's what you do. You're a personal trainer. When's that book gonna show up?" And I'm like, "Well, when I'm guided to write a book about fitness, that book will show up." 6 books later, and I mean my second book has a little bit of fitness in it, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
primarily fitness. And he literally asked that question every time I published the book because in his mind, because again, 35 plus years in the health, fitness, and wellness industry, he's like, "Well, when are you gonna write the book about fitness?" I'm
But
like,
all your books are about fitness.
"Yes, but not the way I guess he expects it to show up as because it's a
Right.
combination of all the other things that I do too, because it's not just about fitness anymore. It's a
Right.
combination of the mind, body, and spirit, bringing it all together, which is theoretically how it should be, in my opinion.
Well, my opinion too. I've already told you that if I could have ever gone to a place to work out and somebody was talking to me about meditation and other things, I probably would have been running back there every day
Yes.
versus oh my God, I'm bored. You know, I think
We have,
we need to,
we have to give you a day where you get to indulge in a 45-minute session with me and see how you feel with all that delicious energy that comes from your workout. Not just
right.
relating to the movement, but the knowledge that comes in when we
And,
talk about all
and,
that workout.
and connecting the body with the spirit. Yes, very
Mm-hmm.
much so. That's motivating for me. And
Yes,
again, that's being the authentic, and you're able, because you're healing other people's authentic self, you're able to accept your authentic self. You know, it makes sense because family compartmentalizes us because that's what they know how to do. It's not out of, you know, removing all judgment for it. They do them. And you can help them be their authentic self by you doing you. And
exactly.
but they're not going to, again, just like with this Pluto change that we've got coming, it's not a do go gently into the good night, you know.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of, I'm sure, side conversations. Who does she think she is? And you know, all of those things. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I'm pretty sure I've got a few brothers and sisters who've had a few cracks back. And I'm one of nine. It would be unheard of if somebody didn't have some crack back and forth about why is she doing astrology? Since when does she do astrology? Because I was a secret astrologer for many, many, many years
oh,
studying it, and it came forth. And so, but you know, for me, it's being accepted in the wholeness and not just, I have nothing to offer. That's the wound of Aquarian in the second house. I have no value to offer.
yeah. Mm,
And helping other people, which is why I want you to be a hero in your own life so I can learn to be a hero in my own life. And
exactly.
and
Exactly.
not necessarily measured against what value do I have with the bigger group. So it, you know, your wound is a really important player in your chart because it's nothing that you fix, but it's something that becomes a tool.
There we go. There we
So
go. So, what I want to touch on just a little bit before we go into doing some card readings, because this weekend, in addition, we have Mercury going direct today. We have the new moon on the 20th,
well, we
21st.
have the sun, and we have sun magic on Friday.
Yeah,
We
the
have
sun
the
is
sun
moving
going
into
into
Aquarius.
Aquarius.
And on the 22nd, besides Uranus going direct, for those who do celebrate, we also have Lunar New Year
Hmm.
as well. So there's a lot going on. So let's talk a little bit about the Uranus going direct because that's been retrograde for quite some time and it's in Taurus energy. So
Hmm.
spill the beans on that and what we're going to feel like once that moves forward.
Well, Uranus or Uranus, depending how you want to say it. I'm gonna throw Dan Rather under the bus. You know, I always had heard it Uranus, and then he started calling it Uranus. I think he didn't like the way it was pronounced. It was I was in my 20s, and I'm like, since when is it Uranus? But I use both. So
Yes.
Uranus in Taurus is not its most happy
Comfortable
placement.
place.
Um, Uranus and Saturn are the rulers of Aquarius. So that's the other reason why it's very important. This is the ruler of Aquarius, the energy of Aquarius. And so, and it's about the chaos and it's about the awakening and taking things apart. It's like the two parents that fight. Then you've got Saturn, the very patriarchal, and then you've got Uranus that's, you know, putting things together. But in Taurus, which is pedantic, slow and steady wins the race. You know, it's the pleasure of food, it's the pleasure of, you know, the body, the home, the garden. It's a little hard to be super chaotic without like knocking your socks off kind of thing. And not everybody's comfortable with that. And so what Uranus and Taurus does help us see is not everything we think we have or should have.
Uh-huh.
It does shake up our home, our what stabilizes us, you know, and a little bit stubbornly so. I mean, it's like an earth moan. It's not an earth shake, an earth moan, you know. And so when it comes direct, it's been so when the planets are retrograde, they're closer to Earth, and that is an energy that's farther out. That is what is beyond what we know. That's Uranus in its a nutshell, and so it's been close to us, and so we felt this for better this bubbling up, this ticking away at something's not quite right. Just, you know, I'm looking for what this feeling is, and hopefully you've been able to just feel it and let it inform you. So when it becomes direct, you're going to be making some real decisions about what it is that you've become aware of that causes you a chaos that you're not willing to participate in, something you want to shake up to help keep it more stabilized. And um, and it's in the vision of Aquarius. It is your vision. So it's almost like giving it an extra kick as it comes direct because it's in its ruling sign. It's in its ruling energy. It's in the energy it vibes with, if you would say. So even though it's in Taurus, it's not happiest place. And kind of thank God, because what else could that be if it weren't at least a little slow and steady, if it had been faster through this period? I was going to actually look up when Uranus went into Taurus, because I think it's kind of important how long ago it was. It doesn't move very fast.
Yeah, and I don't think it's actually leaving Taurus yet. I think
No.
it's going to be there for a little while. Yeah. And then once you're doing that, we'll talk about where Uranus is on your chart, and we'll talk about where it is on my chart. Get some kicks.
So it's from 2018 to 2026. So just before the pandemic really, the mid of 2019 is really when China was experiencing it. And it's the great, they call of change. And this is the sign it's most resistant to. So it really is an earth moan. It is shaking that Capricorn. It makes sense it was with this big Capricorn energy because it wouldn't let it stabilize. It isn't letting it stabilize. And it goes through 2026 before it heads into Gemini. And then we're
I like to refer to the Uranus as the midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Anytime I speak about Uranus or Uranus, however we want to call it, I always say it's the planet of the midlife crisis. So, and it's in Taurus. So, I mean, when we think about it, that Taurus of relationships, of our physical material possessions, and everything that's taken place since the pandemic, how many of us have had a midlife crisis due to that,
Well, and ding, 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 it travels for 7 years. It travels in the energy of the intention, the energy of the internal, my numerologist friend, know. And then it's going to enter the sign of communication, the sign of experience, the sign of being able to see the dark and the light. And it's going to be air and air. So it's going to be a lot about the rethinking, a lot about the mental images, a lot of that. So, this is its least favorite sign, but it's very deep. And thank God it's very steady. It could only make it otherwise. Could you imagine if it had been in something like, I don't know, a fire sign?
Oh, no. Oh, Lord. And especially with all the other planets have been the way they are. Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm very glad it's where it is. And perfectly, when we think about it, it was perfectly aligned with, at least for this year anyway, for the North and South node, because you had the Scorpio and Taurus North-South nodes. That's obviously going to be changing as of, June, when the nodes North and South change into Aries and Libra. So,
and then we're going to have an Aries node with an Aries Jupiter. So expanding that node energy is going to be a big part of that. Okay. So that we're going to be looking at our North node in Aries. What is our soul's goal that has changed now and is moving and starting something brand new, moving, away from balance. So it's going to be a little more disheveled, and it's expanding, helping expand another 12-year cycle. And by the way, 7 times 12 is 84, and 80. There you go. 84 is that 3, that synthesis energy.
Yes. And when we speak about that Jupiter, as you were saying about Jupiter in the Aries, as of May 16th, Jupiter is going to be moving to Taurus as well. Yep. So lots of shifts this year.
And then it will retrograde back into Aries.
Yes, yes, it will. It will retrograde back, I believe, on I think May 20th. I think it retrogrades.
So it takes, Uranus takes 84 years to go through a cycle. Jupiter takes 12 years to go through a cycle. We're in a brand new expansion cycle, which we
Yes.
kind of already knew. And, but, then you got Pluto, who's coming to a new cycle. Pluto takes 247 years to go through something, and it's about to enter into
Aquarius.
Aquarius. And it's this year it's 4 months in Aquarius and 9 months in is that right? Yeah, and 9 months.
Because it's going to go back to Capricorn
and,
shortly
and
after it moves into Aquarius.
right, it starts in March, goes back in June, but
Yes.
next year it's the reverse of that. And that's a really big time that's coming, this little preview of Pluto and Aquarius, our structure and what the vision is. And then next year it's 9 months in Aquarius. And I'm sorry, 3 months. Let's let everyday math. It's about 9 months and about 3 months.
Yeah.
A little bit more than three, a little bit less than nine. Um, it will be reversed next year, and then we'll properly be in Aquarius come 2024.
Yes. Yes.
So and what's really interesting about that is we're going across the 29th degree of Capricorn and the 0 degree of Aquarius. And those are two analytic points, which basically is about the 29th is very cosmic, very galactic, very larger universe. And the 0 is resetting karma, resetting, it's angelic, it's very pure, very innocent at the beginning of what the vision needs to be. And it's going to keep coming back and forth. So,
yes, yes, yes. I think the only planet this year that once it changes, Saturn goes into Pisces, Saturn will not retrograde back to Aquarius. It's going to actually stay in Pisces once it moves into Pisces.
It's already done that once. It's already gone back into Capricorn and back into Aquarius, so it doesn't need to do it again.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, because we're traveling through that. That was last year.
Yes.
But that's really important to know some of those things, not because the retrogrades are, though everything is going to be direct, so that's a good time for getting things done, moving ahead, and it's in Aquarius when it's all direct at first, and that is a fixed sign. So that's about getting things done.
Yes,
It's
that's about
about
making shit happen.
yeah, it's the foot soldier. It's put the boots to the ground and walk. Um, and it's equally important cardinal signs to start things and mutable signs to finish them up and tie them up. But it's got to be moved along for those things to happen.
Yes.
But this Pluto energy, especially here in the States, people are not going to go gently into the good night. They're not going to say, "Oh, let me give up the power structure I understand. I'm primarily speaking of one polarity, and let me just step and embrace it." You're going to see some ugliness, and that's why it's very important we hold the space of joy. We hold the other space to magnify it, because when Pluto's been in Aquarius, that's when we established our Constitution. That's when the Age of Enlightenment in Europe happened. That's when the Crusades ended and there was more understanding. So those hierarchies fell. And it's going to happen. It depends how it happens by the energy we send out. So
yes, yes. So my curiosity for you, Kitty, is where is your Uranus on your chart, house and sign? Kind of curious to know if you and I share something there too.
You know what? I have to actually look. I'm pretty sure it's everything's in Scorpio or in the 8th house for me, just about, except for the few outliers that I know. But I'm pretty sure it's with my son in the or it's in the 10th house. But I'm going to take a quick look to make sure I'm not speaking. So where's yours while I'm looking?
Mine is in Libra, the 4th house.
Libra, the 4th house. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's interesting because Libra is not its happiest placement either, because Libra always wants to justice, but so there's a chaos for you to actually form justice, actually, break things apart so the scales will balance. And that's not an easy placement because you're kind of challenging other people.
Yeah.
So,
And it's really funny you say that, because as you said that, the image that came to my mind when you said that was when I was younger, my two sisters and I, where I was always like the referee, because my two sisters, older and younger, they would constantly fight with each other. So I would always, and me being the tiniest one, when I say tiny, not just in height, but tiny, I would always try to get in the middle of the two of them and pull them apart from each other and tell them to, like, hey, we don't need to be doing all this fighting. And of course, if they didn't listen and they sort of just pushed me aside, because sometimes that happened too, I would just go and, which is going to sound like really funny, I would literally go to the closet and sit in the closet until my parents came home. Because when the two of them decided that I couldn't get them to stop, it was not a happy place in that house until my parents got home. So that's the image that came to mind when you talked about that, trying to bring balance into the.
and in which house was it? The fourth house, family?
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
family.
is home. Which is home, family. Yeah.
It's our moon, it's our private energy. You don't want the chaos to break family apart. You don't want you want it to be just, and if you're going to be chaotic, it's for a greater good. Mine
Yes.
is in Leo in the 8th house. So,
Okay.
like I said, it's either in the house of Scorpio or it's actually in Scorpio. Most of my planets. And so it is, and I know people are like, she doesn't know her signs. Not always.
Not always. Hey, there's a lot to remember.
Well,
We have to write it on our arm. Get it tattooed.
the other thing is, it's like the light switch in my house. How many times I turn it on, if there's 3 or 4 light switches, I don't learn the order. I just don't. My husband will go, "How long have you lived here?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I flip them all on." I always have my chart that I can look.
Yes,
And
well,
so,
that's why we have a chart, so we don't have to remember everything.
and there are certain ones I think about all the time. And so now Uranus will appear for me
Yes.
more often. Anyway, and I kind of knew, like 8th house, wasn't it? So in Leo, the chaos for me, the awareness comes in the house of self, in the house of creative, transforming what is creative, transforming who I am. And it's counterintuitive in some ways. If I'm always transforming myself, I'm actually bringing awareness. And that's a little chaotic for some people. In the house of deep diving into the darkness,
Yes.
nobody volunteers to go swimming in the swamp, and that's the energy of Scorpio. But I do. That's where the chaos is. That's where I go in for the light. So it's, like you said, it's kind of counterintuitive, but that's how I approach it. And it is true. It gives me a level of discernment. When something is chaotic, I figure out what my space in is. So it's a big tool for me.
And I get for you, if you were to do healing work where you called in clients for healing, you would actually probably attract clients that have experienced some dark energy that would need that type of work from you, because you, like you said, you have no problem going to the dark side, going into
For
the
my
swamp for yourself.
For myself, right? Because
But
it's Leo.
Yes, and because you do it for yourself, it makes you a really great a really great healer to hold space for somebody else who has, because then you can show compassion and understanding for their story.
And what's interesting is my inner council, which is your Mercury, your Sun, and your Venus, depending on the order, is what's called, I told you it was already the dictator, but one of the things about it is I don't accept sob stories. I don't like them. It's not that I'm mean about it, but the next question is, what are you going to do for yourself? I can see what the healing is. I can tell you the story. And again, that's why I said the best clients for me are people who are willing to take the step.
Yes, of course. Yeah. To me, it's one of those situations where.
But thank God there are people that can listen to those stories and have empathy and can meet people to pull them out. I'm ready when they're ready to do something.
Yeah, so I would be one of those people that can listen and hold that space of empathy for them and allow them to talk about it. But then once I'm done, even though yes, I can also be that person's like, okay, now that you're ready, let's move it along so we can do something. You and I can like have that teamwork together to do that together.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because again, I mean, that's part of the work that I do when I have people who come telling me their awful, horrific,
Well,
dark
well,
night
and
stories.
you have the ability with your Uranus with chaos to try to figure out what the balance of that is.
Yes.
And that's a gift. I'm grateful for those people who can listen to the stories and get in people that have chosen journeys where they've had a lot of things that happened to them. Um, Not that they chose, but that was whatever their lessons were to be. I remember once I had an astrologer say to me, well, if you choose the lesson of forgiveness because you weren't good at forgiveness, you might accidentally kill somebody, and then you have to really work on forgiveness. And I'm like, wow. So,
It's so funny you say that, because I was actually having a conversation with someone last week about that exact same thing in regards to people that, let's say, commit murder.
mhm.
You know, and I explained to this individual that there are lots of people who do because they have a contract for this lifetime to work on either learning how to forgive, and something like that is really about having to forgive yourself for whatever it is, some sort of crime that you committed. And I truly believe that there's no one in this world that maliciously wants to go and murder somebody. And you know, and of course his point of view was, well, there are people who have some really intense issues psychologically that I said, yeah, but that's also stuff that they haven't worked on. And that's why they go down that sort of rabbit hole.
Or for me, they pick a lifetime to experience that because maybe they had a lifetime where they were too responsible.
Yes,
They pick
exactly.
almost a sociopathic view of that,
Exactly.
which is that karma you take into the next life.
Hmm.
Um, I hope in my evolution I have chosen gentler lessons, um, but that's what my piece of awareness is. And really, this is when our friend Joe Monkman also, talks about the work of Byron Katie. It's removing the judgment from it. It's not my job to figure out what your journey is and to judge it. I can say, Namaste, thank God I didn't pick it that way, because that's a feeling. But as long as I remove the judgment from it. And, there have been people who've had horrific things happen that reach to them that also get that forgiveness. They reach a different level of forgiveness because they don't. And that's what forgiveness is, not letting it have power over you. It's not
Exactly.
that it's okay, it's that it doesn't have power over you. And they have amazing powers to get there, but that's what they chose to do. So look at
Yes.
that. 3 minutes left.
Yes. 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 3 minutes left of what?
Well, we'll have been on an hour.
Okay. Well, let's see if we can pull a one or two cards so we don't go over an hour.
So I'm gonna use my Jeanette, um, since,
Perfect.
since that's the person I spoke to today and brought
Oh,
that energy into here. So,
excellent.
oh, comes flying out.
Yes.
I think we got this one before. Release expectations and trust, and that
Ooh,
is that is part of the vision. I'm going to release that I can figure it all out and trust that my vision is where I'm supposed to be going.
I love
Oh, and
that.
that just echoed.
And I think it goes really perfectly aligned with this one. Healing. Healing.
Hmm.
Because that's what we're all doing. We're all in a process of we're healing something. It could be physical, the emotional aspects, our spiritual journey, reasons why we're here on this earth, reason why we've chosen to be reincarnated in this lifetime. You know, because when we really think about everything we're all experiencing in this lifetime, some of us could sit back and say, I know I have, like, wow, I really chose to be back here in this lifetime. Like,
Yeah.
wow, and I really chose some of these contracts and lessons. Wow, because we are the ones that choose this. You know, it's not like someone hands it to us and we don't have a choice. These are all contracts that we've all chosen to do. You know, so when you ask yourself the next time, why me? Well, remind yourself that you chose that contract. And to have compassion, because that's the pink, that's the high heart. Compassion. Have compassion with yourself and compassion for others. Because even though, yes, we talk about how everyone has their stories, we don't know everyone's stories. We don't know what everyone is going through each and every single day. Don't pretend like you think you do, because you don't. So be compassionate and let go of the judgment. And we can work on letting go of that judgment. We can find more joy in our day because we're not judging anybody. And our sixth energy, which is all about nurturing, healing, taking care of our mind, body, spirit, associated with Virgo energy. And I think that's perfectly aligned with your card as well and everything we talked about today.
Well, and the one that came right with it was, so just what you're talking about, we are aligned. Practice the pause and feel that you are on track.
Yes, and I think we're going to stay with that as our last card because I think that's a perfect way to end today's live. So for those of you who are watching this later, because I'm sure all of you are busy doing something because no one's here with us live, but that's okay. Enjoy it. If you're watching this on Facebook Live replay, leave your comments. Let us know what you feel. Put your astrology information in the comments, those who are watching on Facebook. If you know any of your signs or what we spoke about today, Kenny and I would love to know where you are on your charts. Mm-hmm. And for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm not really sure how you can comment after it's on. Like and share today's show. And Twitter, same thing. All that being said, Kitty, let them know how they can reach you now that I finally got it right on the bottom.
You can reach me at intuitionofthesoul11@gmail.com. My full name, I should put it up there so you can search it on Facebook for Intuition of the Soul, is Kitty Butoig Foss. Maybe we can put that in the comments, how you spell that. You can always send me a message on Messenger. I have a daily vibe I put out on both Intuition of the Soul, Optimize, and on my own page. And the more I'm thinking about this, Joanne, I have an idea that just came to me. So when we get off the air, I'll talk to you about it.
We'll chat about it. Yes. So on that note, guys, for those of you, you all know where to find me because you're finding me right now. But if you're interested in joining my private groups, I have two of them. One is Expand Your Intuition, and every Wednesday night I post a spread of cards. Thursday I come and reveal those cards. You get to choose which card you connect with, and then you gain some insight based on the information. When I pull the cards, I pull it based on the energy that we're currently in. So tonight's poll should be quite interesting. I'm kind of curious to see what cards show up for this energy. And then my other group I have that's private is Holistic Fitness. You can find both of them on my Facebook page. Until next time, when Kitty and I decide to want to come back and play.
And hold the joy.
Just want to make an announcement here since Kitty and I are together. This Sunday, the 22nd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Kitty is going to be my guest on my show, Joanne's Healing Within. So come tune in 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You can watch us live. If you're not able to catch us live because you have other things going on, totally understandable. You can re-watch on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch TV, YouTube, Twitter, and of course Facebook. But she and I will be back again this Sunday playing on my show. And I'm sure we'll be back here again sometime next week chatting along. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Namaste.